Welcome to the Inject Creativity Live Show. My name is Rob the Robot from the Adobe Education team. This is a free online show for primary, secondary and post-secondary educators interested in enhancing digital literacy, communication and creativity in the teaching and learning process. Here are your hosts, Dr. Tim Kitchen and Aaron Raithke.
Thanks, Rob. Welcome to Inject Creativity Live, a show aimed at empowering the next generation to be lifelong digital creators with the help of Adobe tools. Welcome, Aaron.
Hi, Tim, and welcome all to have joined us live via the Adobe for Education YouTube channel or the Australasian Adobe for Education Facebook group for this, the 84th episode of Inject Creativity Live, being recorded in November of 2022.
For those of you who are with us live, we do encourage you to say hi in the chat, share where you're from and add comments throughout the show.
We have Tim Cosgrove from Canada in the background monitoring the chat, and he will share the most relevant comments as they come in.
Let's start this episode with an acknowledgement of country. We respect and honour all Indigenous people from the lands we reach out to during this event. We acknowledge their stories, traditions and living cultures. We acknowledge them as the first educators and the first creatives, and we commit to building a brighter future together. I'm coming to you from Wurundjeri land in the Kulin Nation, otherwise known as Melbourne, Victoria, Australia.
And I'm coming to you from the country of the Jagera, Yugara and Agurapul people from around the area, otherwise known as Brisbane, Queensland, Australia.
Techie Wiz, who's from the Eora Nation, and Adobe Senior Customer Success Manager Jerry Wong, is behind the scenes during this episode. We apologise he won't be able to join us. He's having a few little technical issues. We also need to apologise that Ali Blackwell, who was meant to be presenting for this particular episode, is now no longer available. So Erin has actually stepped in at the last minute, but she had something pre-ready for us, and it's a focus on Adobe Express and Premiere Rush, and it's going to be particularly creative.
Thanks, Tim. So during this episode, we'll also be sharing a number of Adobe-related education resources and professional learning opportunities for you to take back to your schools, universities, and other places of learning.
We do hope you enjoy this episode.
And if you do, please share it with your colleagues and wider education networks via the Adobe for Education YouTube channel.
You're watching Inject Creativity Live with Tim Kitchen and Aaron Raithke.
So Tim, something very special happened in your family since our last recording.
Yes, thank you, Erin. I had the pleasure of walking my daughter Talana down the aisle for her wedding to the wonderful Campbell, and it was a very, very special day.
Oh, that is so wonderful. So congratulations to Talana and Campbell and to you, Tim, on this important milestone. Did you make good dad jokes?
I made plenty of dad jokes. It's really weird. As soon as Talana came into existence 22 years ago, I suddenly lost my sense of humor and I just started telling dad jokes all the time. I don't know what it is. It's weird.
It's amazing. My husband, when I was pregnant, he started practicing and telling her dad jokes while she was still in my belly. That was one of the things. I think he was just warming his up, clearing his dad throat, so to speak.
And what's also weird is as soon as Talana was born, I suddenly lost the ability to dance.
Or did you just become incomprehensibly cool with your dancing?
Probably a bit of both.
Now it's time for a quick Inject Creativity Live Adobe Express tip.
Well, I've got an interesting Adobe Express tip. It's sort of Adobe Express, but it's a new version. Let me just quickly share this screen. What you can see now is making social media animations for free through Adobe Express. Now, this is almost like Adobe Character Animator, but a web version of it. It's totally free. It's amazing, and I'd love to share it with you now. So I did this as a pre-recording just to tighten it up, and hopefully this will be impressive for you. And I'd love to see what you can actually build with this. Hi folks, Tim here, and I'm really excited to introduce to you custom animated characters from Adobe Express. Now, if you jump into this particular site, adobe.com/express, adobe.com/create/video/animation/social, and then bookmark it so you don't have to remember that really long URL, then you'll get access to the site that you can see down the bottom center, bottom left-hand corner here. When you click on this button here called Make Social Media Animations, when you click on it, it gets you directly into the stage area and the environment that we're going to work in. There's a whole bunch of characters you can work with, and you can see it's already by default gone into the character mode. As we scroll through, you can see some very familiar characters for those of you who've used Adobe Character Animator before. And there are some new ones as well, which is exciting. I'm going to stick with Bill. Bill's one of my favorite characters. I'm going to grab Bill. Don't tell Rob the robot that though. And you can also go ahead and click the background button. This provides a whole range of preset backgrounds for you that you can work with. Or in this particular version, you can also upload any image, which is exactly what I'm about to do. I'm going to click the upload button, and I'm going to grab a background image that you're probably already very familiar with. There we go. It's got a very Inject Creativity Live feel to it now, doesn't it? If I go to the size button, and now I can decide what size I want my video. By default, it's gone 16:9, which is exactly what I want for YouTube. But if I wanted to go TikTok, I could just change it from YouTube down to TikTok, and it would jump into a 9:16. I'm going to go back to YouTube to get it to the resolution I want. So I've got the character worked out, I've got the background worked out, I've got the size worked out. And you'll notice there's no automatic animation straight away, because that all happens in the background with artificial intelligence. A little bit of Adobe Sensei is being used. So let's start a quick recording now by clicking the record button. Otherwise, what I could do is I could choose an audio file that I've pre-recorded, and I could bring that in. But in this case, I'm just going to do the direct live recording. It'll give me a few seconds, 3 seconds, 2, 1. Hello, it's Bill here, and I hope you're enjoying this episode of Inject Creativity Live. And I'm going to hit the done button. And so now everything that I've just recorded is being synced. All right, looks like it's just about done. And if I go ahead and hit this play button right here in the center, we should be able to see what's happened. Hello, it's Bill here, and I hope you're enjoying this episode of Inject Creativity Live. Now I can trim this by going to my little trimming handles, grabbing that first one and just trim it so that we start exactly when I start speaking, and do the same at the end when I've finished talking. So now that that is fully trimmed, I can go ahead and click the download button, and it's now creating an actual video file, which will end up in my downloads folder as an MP4 video. Now it says your video has been downloaded. Let's find out if that is the case. Jumping into my Finder, going into my downloads, and there it is. If I open that up in QuickTime and bring it across to my shared screen, it's now an active video. Hello, it's Bill here, and I hope you're enjoying this episode of Inject Creativity Live. So there you go, folks, custom animated characters via Adobe Express. So exciting what Adobe Express is turning into. I hope you enjoy it and make the most of it. Share it with your students, see what they can create. And I look forward to hearing from you about some of the amazing creations that you and your students make. There we go. So Erin, where can teachers and students find out more about Adobe Express?
Well, if they look up adobe.ly/express-APAC to find out more, they can work with Adobe Express via the Get to Know Adobe Express site that we've created.
Hello, it's Bill here, and I hope you're enjoying this episode of Inject Creativity Live. I think Bill's going to become a permanent stinger for future shows. We'll find out. Now, Erin, we're going to hear a fantastic presentation from you, and thank you so much for doing it at the last minute. So we really appreciate it. So over to you, Erin.
That's perfectly okay, Tim. Well, I'm actually going to be doing a longer version of this for my Create, Share, Learn channel. So I will give you the nice short version, and keep an eye out on my channel, subscribe if you want to see the longer version of it that will be coming soon. Now, the premise of this is that we want to create a little stop motion video, creating the main assets in Adobe Express, downloading them as images, and then dropping them into a timeline in Adobe Rush. Now, technically, everything I'm doing here can be done on a computer. That could be even a Chromebook. For the Express part. And then if you take the assets that you create in Adobe Express, all you need is a device that can run Adobe Rush. So that could be an iPad, that could be a computer, so either a PC or Mac. So there's a few different ways that you can tackle this with a few different devices depending on your institution. Now let's get started. I'm going to show you the basics of creating a little character in Adobe Express based purely on shapes within Adobe Express. Now, this is just for the purposes of the demo, mostly based on what I've created earlier. So I'm going to create a custom-sized graphic, and I'm going to use one of the standard widescreen templates of 16:9. Obviously, if you were creating this for use on a phone or to play on a phone, you can pick whatever portraiture or landscape format is most suitable for you. So I'm going to select widescreen. I'm going to hit next. And then from there, I've got my lovely blank canvas. Now, I don't need all of these templates. I'm going to jump straight across into the shapes area. So I'm going to select shapes. And as you can see, we've got a lot of different assets in there, but I'm going to keep it really simple. And I'm going to search for a circle because I am going to create a happy little sun. Again, channeling a bit of Bob Ross there. I'm going to create a happy little sun using just plain shapes. This is also a great project to get students thinking about things like emotion. How do you convey emotion using simple shapes? They may have access to Fresco or other apps where they could actually draw their characters. But say, for instance, if they don't have the fine motor skills to be able to use a pen, but they can use a mouse, they might be able to click and drag or use their fingers if they're on a touchscreen device. That might make this a little bit more accessible to some people. So I've got my first little shape there. I'm going to change the color of it to something that's a little bit more sunny. Lucky that that yellow was just there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that circle and I'm going to hit the duplicate button just there and I'm going to duplicate it. Now it's not going to stay big and yellow because what I want to do is I want to make our little friend some eyes. So I'm going to take that one circle, I'm going to go to the right-hand side and change the fill to black. So we're going to start with that black eye there. And then I'm going to duplicate that again. I'm going to make the circle even smaller. Even smaller. Oh, why won't you let me keep make that smaller? Come on, mate. There we go. Smaller, smaller. Oh, it's having a little bit of a temper tantrum with me. There we go. Interesting glitch. Okay, so that's the highlight of his eye that I'm creating. So I'm going to make that white now. So I'm going to drag that right over there, make it white, overlay it over there. And I'm going to make my black circle a little bit bigger so that the little highlight doesn't look quite as strange. And now what I'm going to do to create two eyes for him is I am going to group that. So we've got one eye. And then I'm going to duplicate that group. So now we have two eyes. And look at that. It made the circle smaller. I like the smaller circle. So let's duplicate that again. So it's always a bit interesting when you make the duplication tool because sometimes what's showing on your screen might change. And it's always good when you're creating things to be a little bit flexible and iterate as you go. So I want my sun to be a happy little sun. So I am going to search for a shape that looks like a curve. What other shapes look like curves? Well, you could look for a moon icon if the curves that are supplied aren't any good. So let's try that. because one thing that moons usually come in is a crescent. What also looks like a crescent when it goes sideways is a happy little smile. So let's curve that around, turn it around, adjust it down a little bit, move his little smile down here. And we don't want him to be duck egg blue. We'll make that smile black just to make it nice and high contrast. The last thing we might do is add a couple of little shapes. We might look for a different moon curve this time. So let's try that one. That's a little tiny bit narrower. Should add onto our canvas there. And this time I'll change his color first and make it black. And then we'll just rotate that there. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that down and I'm going to make him look, dearie me, there we go. A little bit surprised, so let's duplicate that again, move that over there and just spin it around. So there is my happy little sun. Let's give him some triangles. And we can just build up our shape and our character like so until we end up having the shape that we want. The other thing that we can do is actually search for a sun icon and see if there's like the pattern that we want to put behind it. So there's an option there that already has the circle built in. So you see how we've dropped that on there. So what I could do is I could select those, make them a group, make that my sun, delete my original circle, take my face, make sure they're all one group, make my sun go ahead of it to get the shape right, and then use my layering tool to make sure everything's in the order that I want. So there's my happy little sun. And I'll just select everything and make sure that they are all grouped together so I can move him around. So that's a happy little sun that I've made there. Here is a whole series of little character shapes that I've made earlier. Now, the trick with these ones is I've created the same, or duplicated, I should say, the same shape over and over and over again, but I've just made slight variations to the little face. So he looks a bit surprised. He's smiling. He's got a bigger smile. That one's got their eyes closed, kind of looks like a unicorn toy smile. And there I've got my little suns that all have the different little facial expressions. Now, if I go through and create all of those, then what I can do is I can download all of these pages as a PNG with a transparent background. Now, if I create all of the faces that I want, trying as I create them to keep the shape in the same location, but just move around the facial expressions, what you'll get once I've downloaded that packet of images to my computer is a starting place for me to add them into a timeline to make them animated. So it's a little bit like when I was younger, you would make drawings on a pages and then flip it on the corners really, really quickly to create a little flip book. That's what we're doing, but it's the digital version introducing students to the concept of animation and conveying emotion through simple shapes. So let's have a look and see if all of those files have made it onto my download folder. My computer's running a little bit slowly, so let's just see how we're going. It's having a bit of a think. There we go. So what it's done is it's created a zip folder in my downloads file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extract that zip folder that has all of my images in it. And it's extracting those for me. And now here I have all of my pictures that I have created in this extracted file on my computer. So from here, I want to pull them across into Adobe Rush. So I'm going to have Rush open in the background. I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to call it Happy Weather. And I am going to upload all of those files from there into my project. So you can even see I've selected in what I prepared earlier from Adobe Stock some images of a sky and sunsets that I could put into the background of all of my files. So I want to select all of these. So let's just hit that. We want to select all of them. There we go. And I'm going to hit create. And it's going to drop all of these images into my timeline. Now, because I left the shapes in the same location and because I just changed the faces around, what happens now, and I'll just make that canvas a bit bigger so you can see. I want to make that larger. I want to make this a little bit smaller so you can see more of my timeline. So what I can do here is I can just start playing them. And we've got that background where it's black, so it's not showing everything. So I'm going to take that sunset and add the layers around and start mixing them around so you can actually start to see things appearing. And Rush appears to be having a little bit of a struggle because I should be able to see things on my preview screen just there.
Yeah, I think it's still rendering in the background there, Erin. It sometimes
is,
does
Tim.
that with Rush. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's I've got a million windows open because of this live stream as well, which probably isn't helping it much at all. But it's an interesting little concept that you can start, because if you didn't want to put it into Rush, you could take this process where you create little faces. Your students could start iterating it on a piece of paper to plan it out. They could use a storyboard method. They needn't necessarily even create little characters like this. They could create a stop motion that has a whole little landscape with a plane and mountains, and they could have a little figure moving across the screen and doing something in picture after picture after picture. The best thing about Adobe Express is that now we have the ability to duplicate pages. You can take what you've created in one page and make small, subtle changes to that then when you actually start going through and looking at all of the different images starts to tell a story. So pulling them into Rush is sort of like the final thing that you would spend a lot of time on, but I hope this gives you a general idea of how you can cross-pollinate from Adobe Express into Premiere Rush.
So cool. In fact, you could do it in Premiere Pro if you know Premiere Pro. You could do it in Adobe Animate too, and make an animation with all those images. Lots of options there. Erin, that was wonderful. I'm just bringing up your handle there, Create, Share, Learn. Now, that's how people can contact you through Twitter, Instagram?
No, so Twitter, I'm Erin Raithke, but if I'll pop it into the chat for my channel. That's no problem. And yeah, my New Year's resolution that I'm starting early to give myself a bit of a head start is to try to create a video a week, even if it's something short, just to give somebody something to experiment with, try and share with their colleagues or with their family over the holidays, Christmas projects with kids to keep them busy and occupied and have them achieve something. So keep an eye out, and I will be popping that link into the chat.
Very, very cool. Thank you so much, Erin. A special thank you for doing that at the very last minute. And it was probably one of the best demos we've had all year. So that's it just goes to show you. Really practical.
I don't know about that, but thank you.
And let's hear from Claudio.
Hi there, it's Claudio from the Adobe Global EDU team. Thanks for watching Inject Creativity Live. If you haven't already, join the Adobe Creative Educator Program.
Well over 1 million teachers have joined the Adobe Education Exchange to get lesson ideas and professional learning based on making the most of their Adobe applications in the classroom.
One of the most popular courses on the Adobe Education Exchange is the Creativity for All course, which, when completed, allows you to join Level 1 of the Adobe Creative Educator program.
Close to 60,000 teachers have enrolled in the Creativity for All course.
So if you look up adobe.ly/ACE, you can do the Creativity for All course on the Adobe Education Exchange at any time on demand and get your ACE Level 1 badge.
Other courses on the Adobe Education Exchange can be found via tinyurl.com/edX-PL. The most recent is sketchnoting with Adobe Express, Fresco, and Scan.
And here is Manuel Herrera from the Adobe Education team to explain more about this course.
We all know that students learn, communicate, and share information in different ways. This becomes even more important when introducing new and challenging materials into the classroom. You can sketchnote with students no matter your drawing level. I'll teach you quick and fun sketchnoting activities that you can use to teach new material, create study guides, or even to quickly check for understanding. We'll be using Adobe Scan, Express, and Fresco, thereby increasing your students' digital literacy skills at the same time, a critical need for the 21st century. All right, let's get sketching.
And of course, that's one of the many courses on the Adobe Education Exchange that are designed for teachers all over the world. If you want something a little bit more local to this part of the world, look up adobe.ly/edu events to find out and register for localized professional learning events for the Australasian region.
So on Wednesday, November 30th, we'll be running the final Adobe Teach Meet session for 2022. So look up adobe.ly/teachmeets to find out more and register and share this link with your colleagues.
Hey, let's hear from Tacey. We haven't heard from her for a little while.
Hi, I'm Tacey Trowbridge, head of Adobe's Thought Leadership and Advocacy. Thanks for watching Inject Creativity Live. And if you're excited about creativity, take a listen to the Creative Educator podcast.
If you're on Facebook and you're not already a member of the Australasian Adobe Education Community Facebook group, please join via facebook.com/groups/AUSAEL.
Join us and keep regularly involved with Adobe in education and the wider community.
We have a newsletter called the Adobe in Education Update Australasia, which now has a new look via adobe-apac-edu.com.
Complete the contact form at adobe.ly/contact-edu-APAC if you don't already get a reminder about this publication each month and join the email list.
Hey, let's hear from Rebecca, who is now the new head of the Global Adobe Education Community Programs.
Hi, Rebecca Hare here from the ACE course on the Education Exchange. Thank you for watching Inject Creativity Live. If you haven't taken the ACE course yet, definitely go to the Education Exchange and sign up, and I'll see you there.
Now we're going to bring Tim Cosgrove up and possibly Jerry. He's having some internet issues, so maybe not Jerry. We'll see how we go. And let's bring him up for the farewell. Those of you who have joined us live, stay on for the recording of the next episode with special guest Eden Carey from Western Australia, and then for the fireside chat with our presenters.
Our next Inject Creativity Live recording session will be on December 7th from 5 p.m. Daylight Savings Time and Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time, I should say. And we'll feature special guests Michelle Dennis from Haileybury and Ross Johnson from the New South Wales Department of Education.
Thank you to Erin and Jerry for helping me put this show together. And a special thanks to Adobe Education Leader Tim Cosgrove, all the way from Canada, who has been monitoring the live online chat. And thank you to those who are with us live at the moment.
So log into adobe.ly/ICL-playlist to view past episodes of Inject Creativity Live, as well as a new set of 30-minute Adobe for Education webinars by Dr. Tim Kitchen via the Adobe for Education YouTube channel at adobe.ly/ICL-playlist.
Well, that's it for this episode. We look forward to seeing you at the next one. All the very best, everyone. Bye for now.
Thank you for watching this episode of Inject Creativity Live. If you are not watching this live, join us live next time. Use this QR code or link to find out about dates and topics. And use this QR code and link to find out about other Adobe in Education professional learning opportunities. On behalf of the Adobe in Education team, keep being creative. Welcome to the Inject Creativity Live Show. My name is Rob the Robot from the Adobe Education team. This is a free online show for primary, secondary and post-secondary educators interested in enhancing digital literacy, communication and creativity in the teaching and learning process. Here are your hosts, Dr. Tim Kitchen and Aaron Raithke.
Thanks, Rob. Welcome to Inject Creativity Live, a show aimed at empowering the next generation to be lifelong digital creators with the help of Adobe tools. Welcome, Aaron.
Hi, Tim, and welcome to everyone who's joined us live and those watching on demand via the Adobe for Education YouTube channel or the Australasian Adobe for Education Facebook group for this, the 65th episode of Inject Creativity Live. We are recording this
65th, Aaron? Did you say
65th, 80th?
85th?
Did I say? And my tongue snapped off its roller, Tim. It was bound to happen eventually. But we are recording the 85th episode in November of 2022.
For those of you who are with us live, we do encourage you to say hi in the chat, share where you're from, and add comments throughout the show.
And we have the wonderful Tim Cosgrove from Canada in the background monitoring the chat for us, and he'll be sharing the most relevant comments as they come in.
Let's start this episode with an acknowledgement of country. We respect and honour all Indigenous people from the lands we reach out to during this event. We acknowledge their stories, traditions and living cultures. We acknowledge them as the first educators and the first creatives, and we commit to building a brighter future together. I'm coming to you from Wurundjeri land in the Kulin Nation, otherwise known as Melbourne, Victoria, Australia.
And I'm coming to you from the country of the Jagera, Yagara and Agorapul people from around the area otherwise known as Brisbane, Queensland, Australia.
Techie Whiz and Adobe Senior Customer Success Manager Jerry Wong, who's from the Eora Nation in New South Wales, is behind the scenes helping us out with this episode, having some technical issues, so he's not going to be joining us physically. Well, you know what I mean anyway.
On screen, yeah. And during this episode, joining us on screen, we do have Adobe Education Leader Eden Carey from Western Australia. We'll also be sharing a number of Adobe-related education resources and professional learning opportunities for you, as well as an Adobe Express tip for you to take back to your schools, universities, and other places of learning.
We do hope you enjoy this episode.
And if you do, please share it with your colleagues and wider education networks via the Adobe for Education YouTube channel.
And just before we go to an Adobe Express tip, Sarah has said, thanks so much for making these available. I finally get here live. It's so good, Sarah. Thank you for joining us live. Most people watch the recording of this, but it's always wonderful to get people joining us live as well. All right, are we ready for an Adobe Express tip?
Now it's time for a quick Inject Creativity Live Adobe Express tip.
All right, I'm going to quickly share my screen up here, and this isn't going to take very long at all. I just want to quickly show you that once you've got a whole bunch of projects here, and I'm just going to get my little pointer thing working so you can see where my cursor is. So what I did then is I went straight to the project section. I'm in Adobe Express. I've already logged in, and this is like the dashboard that comes up first. And as you can see, I've got a bunch of folders here because I use Adobe Express constantly, as I'm sure you are too. And you're finding there's project after project after project, which is great. But it's really a good idea to organize your projects into folders. Now, when I'm working with students in schools, I encourage them to have a folder for each subject area, and maybe even a folder inside a folder, like a subfolder for different units of work within the subjects. Organize it any way they want to, but it just really helps. So I've got a different set of folders here. Erin, do you do something similar?
If my work colleagues at TAFE Queensland were hearing you talking right now, they would be like nodding emphatically about how much I go on about file folder structure and how managing it carefully makes your life so much easier in the long term, especially when you've got projects that you reuse month after month, year after year. Just that little bit of deliberate curation now saves you so much time later.
So to create a folder, what you need to do is go over to the right-hand side and there's a little folder plus symbol. When you click on that, you can name your folder, give it a whatever you know. I'll just do a test one now. I'll just call it test and then click create. And so that becomes an actual folder. To bring in a project into a folder, you've got to go to the little ellipsis tool, a little ellipsis option that appears at the top right-hand corner of your tile. When you click on that, you'll see it says move. When you click move, you'll see all of your folders, and then you select the one that you want to and then move that project there. So now that project won't exist on the front of your dashboard. It'll now exist within the actual folder that you've just created. So that is the basic steps. And just to clarify that, when you log into Adobe Express, you will see your dashboard. Go to the project section, and that's where you'll see all of your projects and you can start creating your folders. Erin, where can teachers find out more about Adobe Express?
If you look up adobe.ly/express-APAC to find out more about working with Adobe Express via the Get to Know Adobe Express site.
Fantastic. Let's hear from Rob.
We hope you're enjoying this episode of Inject Creativity Live with Tim Kitchen and Erin Rathke.
Thanks, Rob. Well over 1 million teachers have joined the Adobe Education Exchange to get lesson ideas, to get professional learning based on making the most of their Adobe applications in the classroom.
One of the most popular courses on the Adobe Education Exchange is the Creativity for All course, which, when completed, allows you to join Level 1 of the Adobe Creative Educator program.
About 60,000 teachers have now enrolled in the Creativity for All course.
If you look up adobe.ly/ACE, you can do the Creativity for All course on the Adobe Education Exchange at any time, on demand, to get your ACE Level 1 badge.
Look up tinyurl.com/edX-PL to see other courses on the Adobe Education Exchange and share these with your colleagues and wider education networks.
And also look up adobe.ly/edu events to find out and register for localized professional learning events for the Australasian region.
Now, Eden Carey, I should say, you're Erin, don't get confused. Eden Carey from Western Australia, she's currently teaching at the moment because it's Western Australia. They're like 3 hours behind us in Melbourne and Sydney and 2 hours behind you. Is that right? In Brisbane, I think. So she's...
I take your word for it, Tim.
But Erin has very kindly pre-recorded her presentation titled Snap, Transform, Reveal. So here she is.
Snap, Transform, Reveal. So in our Year 7 Creative Media class, we developed an assessment that incorporated students capturing photos, editing, and showcasing all of their photography work. So students learned various camera techniques in class, such as depth of field, leading lines, framing, and then they applied that knowledge into capturing photos, editing those photos using Photoshop, and then they presented and explained each of those different camera techniques and how they've edited their photos using Adobe Express. So I'm going to show you a couple of bits of their work. As you can see, we have their Adobe Express portfolio. So they use Adobe Express web pages to showcase all of their photos. So they've got their before and after photo. So when they've actually captured their photo using the DSLR camera, shooting in RAW, and then bringing that into Photoshop, they edited, and then they presented the photos right next to each other and then actually having an explanation of which kind of camera technique that they use and how did they edit that photo in one web link that they then shared with me so I could then mark their work. So as you can see, they've got Adobe Express allows you to create a side-by-side picture, which is what the girls use to have their before and after picture, as well as in a linear format that they can add a caption to their image, as well as adding a paragraph and saying, okay, well, this is the rule of thirds and this is an explanation that we have here. So this is the resources that we use for our assessment. So we use the applications, which we have Creative Cloud licenses. So they use Adobe Photoshop Creative Cloud. And then we use Adobe Express webpage, which is free for Year 7 or for our students at our college. And they had their license anyway with their Creative Cloud that they got to use it. And as you can see here in this screenshot that they've used Adobe Express, it's all throughout the web browser, and it is completely free, compatible because it's all through the browser. And they were able, just in a linear format, just up to all the way down, just scroll down and hit that plus button to then add a background picture, to add text, and the girls just picked it up extremely quickly. We also used equipment, so we had DSLR cameras that the girls got to use in class, and that way they were able to practice their different camera techniques and use the class time to take those photos, and also props that they might have brought from home or some that they might be able to borrow from the school library. We have a lot of flowers at our school, and so the girls used a lot of the flowers, especially when it came to framing, using the hedging, using flowers to kind of frame around their images. So when we use Adobe Photoshop, because we shot our cameras in RAW, so it was a CR2 file type, so automatically when you bring in that file type into Photoshop, it does come up automatically into Camera Raw filter. If you're not shooting in RAW, that's okay. You can, if you're shooting in JPEG, even when you're opening up that JPEG file into Photoshop, it will just open up Photoshop normally, but then you just go up to the top menu bar and click on Filter, Camera Raw filter, and then you'll come up with this same appearance here where you can just edit the photo itself. So what I really like about the Camera Raw filter in Photoshop Creative Cloud is that it is just so simplistic. It's a really nice introduction, especially for the Year 7 girls. It was really nice for them to just have the very simplistic tools that they have here. If I scrolled up here, there was like an auto button or a black and white, so you can just at a click of a button, click on auto, and it perfectly adjusted. And then the girls would be able to see all the detail of all the adjustments that was made in Photoshop. And the girls are just very surprised, amazed of how well the images just came out straight away just by hitting the auto. And I think that sometimes when you use Photoshop and you've never used it before, especially with the younger year groups, it's a very make or break. If they're using the application for the first time, it can be very overwhelming because there are so many tools and so many great features. But it can be a lot to take on all at once. So I think using the Camera Raw filters, when that opens up straight away, it's like, oh, hey, I can just click on the auto button and oh my God, I've just created a wonderful work of art. And I think it was just a fantastic opportunity for the girls to just have that little bit of a stepping stone into using the application. So a really great start for them. Also practicing the very basics because they opened the file into Photoshop, as well as because it is a CR2 file, we needed to export that file off, which we exported as a quick PNG. So then again, just teaching the students how to go to File, Export, Quick Export as PNG. And so just having that repetition of that skill as well was really handy, so they understand a little bit about file formats as well. They understand the difference between, okay, what's a PSD file, what's a CR2 file, and what's a PNG file. So having that little bit of understanding, well, what's the purpose for each of those file formats and what do they do, how do they differ? So that's a very good skill as well. So once they exported all the different photos, they had all their photo collections, all their different camera techniques, we then spent one lesson, literally one lesson, going through Adobe Express webpage. As you can see, I've just highlighted it here. So heaps and heaps of tools. So I just kind of gave a little bit of an overview of like all the different opportunities, all the different tools and quick actions that you can use from Adobe Express. And then I clarified and went through web page in a little bit more detail. So we went through that, just literally hit the plus button, add text H1, H2, header 1, header 2, or just paragraph text or adding an image. And I went through the very basics, probably 10-15 minutes is all the time I went going through how to log into their free Adobe Express account, how to click on the web page, and then just a little bit of a run through of adding text and adding images. And then we use that lesson of saying, okay, we'll now go off and practice, go off and use Adobe Express and have a go. And they started putting all their photos into their portfolio, presenting all their work, typing in their paragraphs. As I was going around the class, gave them a little bit more tips and a little bit more guidance of, hey, how about you try this and how about you try that? Lots of trial and error. The girls just went like, Miss, let's show me, have a look at this. And I was looking over and amazed at all the different work that the girls came up with. So really great way that the girls can make their own web page without having any knowledge of building websites. A very simplistic tool for them just to showcase all their work in a very, very graphical way. And so again, this is just a couple of examples of what the girls created with their heading, with their paragraph text, using the collage features and having the images presented. They didn't have to go off and using another tool to create their collage here. They could just pop in 3 images, and again, the application just does it all for you. Or they could have their before and after, and again, there was a spot for their caption as well, before and after, and their caption. So it was very easy for the girls to use, didn't have any difficulty with it, and really easy for them to just share that link with me as well in terms of allowing me to mark their work. So they were really creative. The assessment went extremely well. And again, just to summarize, it was our year 7 group. I work at an all-girls school at Santa Maria College, and the girls were in an elective, which is creative media, and just 3 aspects to this assessment. They were to capture 3 photos for each of the camera techniques, so like depth of field, rule of thirds, and framing, and so on. Then they had to just do some minor edits, so just cropping or some contrast or lighting. So just using that auto or using black and white was okay. Exporting that off into a PNG file. And then they had to showcase their work, so and add some explanations to justify their work. So a really great assessment, covers a lot of different basic skills. And a nice introduction to using Photoshop. So thank you for watching, and hopefully you can have a go using this in your own classroom too.
Thank you, Eden. So much fun. That was titled Snap, Transform, Reveal, and you can see that they're having a lot of fun with Photoshop and Adobe Express. Eden, Carey, a fantastic effort. Thank you so much.
Hi there, it's Claudio from the Adobe Global EDU team. Thanks for watching Inject Creativity Live. If you haven't already, join the Adobe Creative Educator Program.
Adobe has a resource that maps Adobe Education Exchange teaching resources to the Australian curriculum called School Project and Lesson Ideas with Adobe.
So if you look up adobe.ly/ac-projects, you can make the most of this new resource and share it with your colleagues.
Hi, I'm Tacey Trowbridge, head of Adobe's Thought Leadership and Advocacy. Thanks for watching Inject Creativity Live. And if you're excited about creativity, take a listen to the Creative Educator podcast.
If you're on Facebook and you're not already a member of the Australasian Adobe Education Community Facebook group, why not? Please join via facebook.com/groups/AUSAEL.
Join us and keep regularly involved with Adobe in education and the wider community.
We also have a newsletter called the Adobe in Education Update Australasia, which now has a new look via adobe-apac-edu.com.
Complete the contact form via adobe.ly/contact-edu-apac if you don't already get a reminder about this publication each month and join the email list.
Some of you might be wondering why you haven't got the previous month's edition. Well, we did have a technical hiccup, so we ended up distributing that through our social channels instead of through email, but we'll be back on track again as of this week, I think. So the next edition will come out in a couple of weeks' time. Let's hear from our new leader of Adobe's global community education programs, Rebecca Hare.
Hi, Rebecca Hare here from the ACE course on the Education Exchange. Thank you for watching Inject Creativity Live. If you haven't taken the ACE course yet, definitely go to the Education Exchange and sign up, and I'll see you there.
Let's bring Tim Cosgrove up from behind the scenes. Jerry would too, but he's having a few little technical hiccups at the moment, so we're just going to keep him back behind the scenes. Where are you, Tim? Tim, I'm sure you're going to... There he is. Give us a wave, Tim, all the way from Canada, where it's some crazy o'clock in the morning. What time actually is it, Tim, right now for you?
Right now it's 1:51 a.m.
And he still helps us and still here with us live. So we really appreciate that, Tim. Thank you so much. When's our next episode, Erin?
Our next Inject Creativity Live recording session will be on December 7th at 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time, and it will feature special guests Michelle Dennis from Haileybury and Ross Johnson from the New South Wales Department of Education.
Well, thank you to Erin and to Jerry for helping me put this show together, and a special thanks to Adobe Education leader Tim Cosgrove, all the way from Canada, who's been monitoring the live online chat. And thank you to those of you who are with us live at the moment.
So go to adobe.ly/ICL playlist, or ICL-playlist, I should say, to view past episodes of Inject Creativity Live, as well as a new set of 30-minute Adobe for Education webinars by Dr. Tim Kitchen via the Adobe for Education YouTube channel at adobe.ly/ICL-playlist.
For those watching the recording, we'll see you at the next episode. For those who are with us live, feel free to join us now for an informal fireside chat, which we'll be connecting via this link, adobe.ly/edu-meet-APAC. And that's a Microsoft Teams link. So folks, thanks again for everyone. We look forward to connecting with you again in the near future. And just to wind up this episode, Rob is going to say goodbye. All the best. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for watching this episode of Inject Creativity Live. For those who are watching live, join us now via adobe.ly/edu-meet-APAC for an informal, non-recorded fireside chat to meet and interact with our presenters and other audience members. During this informal chat, you will be able to complete the feedback form and apply for a professional development certificate. If you are not watching this live, join us live next time. Use this QR code or link to find out about dates and topics. And use this QR code and link to find out about other Adobe in Education professional learning opportunities. On behalf of the Adobe in Education team, keep being creative.